accordingly, we have new documents that we have put out that tie the Pentagon to the most pernicious type of anti-Americanism, racial division, just the insane racial divisiveness that you've seen from the left these days, where they've been pushing this anti-American, anti anything other than minority, because it's hard to tell who they're opposed to, depending on what they're arguing, uh, propaganda. And Judicial Watch uncovered, thanks to our intrepid investigators, documents from the Department of Defense, that show that our Pentagon, our military, is attempting to brainwash our troops, our service members, with the worst type of uh, anti-Americanism. I don't know how else to describe it than that. There are documents produced to us from the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute, and they're used by the department's equal opportunity advisors to train service members on diversity topics. So when you hear diversity, you're supposed to come away with a warm and fuzzy feeling, right? Well, for the left, diversity means destroying the country. You'll see that in these documents. The teaching materials include student study guides written for these advisor courses, these equal opportunity advisor courses, that are critical of persons who, quote, believe that human similarities are more important than differences. So people who necessarily, you're not supposed to want to bring people together. You're supposed to want to divide them. Advises people to acknowledge their, quote, privilege when it is pointed out to them, claim that heterosexuals have sexual orientation privilege, and that, quote, religion privilege exists. According to the website, the organization was propelled by the civil rights movement in the 1960s. I don't know what this has to do with the civil rights movement in the 1960s, but I guess I'm naive. The operating budget is, I don't know, they spent about $20 million during the Obama years. I think this year they're going to spend about $13 million. So it's your tax dollars at work here. And of course, it's our military that is being victimized with these crazy trainings. The records include a chapter entitled Power and Privilege, in which students are taught that the privilege can also be linked to various forms of identity, such as sexual orientation privilege and religious privilege, as I discussed. Students are also taught that there is sexual orientation privilege associated with the marginalization of non-heterosexual lifestyles and the view that heterosexuality is the normal sexual orientation. The guide advises that some dominant group members may claim, quote, personal achievement mostly depends on personal ability. So did you hear that? So if you think that you are bettered in society through your own achievement, through your personal ability, you're part of the problem. The study also teaches that people who raise religious objections to homosexual marriage are engaged in a form of discrimination called principium. I've never heard of that one before, which is avoiding exploration based on religious or personal principle. Oh, so if you're principally opposed to gay marriage, you are engaged in discrimination necessarily, according to the Pentagon. This is what they're telling our troops. These people are willing to put their lives out on the line for us, put their lives on the line for us, and they're being brainwashed, or at least they're attempting to brainwash them. And by the way, if you engage in, quote, minimization, which is skepticism of this libel and slander that all of America is racist, you're a racist too. The guide notes that modern racism, for instance, is saying things like discrimination is a thing of the past. Tactics and the demands of activists, meaning leftists, are unfair, and that racism is bad. So even if you oppose racism, you're a racist. if you suggest that discrimination is not as bad as the leftist rabble-rousers say, you're a racist. And then they have a chart labeled racist behavior. And they say that people who oppose policies designed to address racial equality or feel that these policies are a violation of norms and fairness are modern racists. So this is what our I could go on and on about this, and I'm not going to read the whole release to you. But this training, I went and I confirmed it's still going on at the Pentagon. So you may be concerned about what's being taught in our schools. This is what's being taught in our military. And it's been going on for years. It began during the Obama administration. I think the program began in 2015, and the training continues. And the current leadership of the Pentagon was brought up on this, endorsed this. You may see in the news this week that the leadership of the Pentagon is basically making it impossible or outlawing, practically speaking, any depiction of the Confederate flag in military installations. Why did they have to do that right now? Why? Because the left wants it done. It's not about a considered thinking of history. It's not about where is it being used, and what cases is it being used? Is it being used to intimidate people, or is it being used to reflect on military battles in the past that the United States was engaged in? No, ban, complete ban. You may recall how you had General Mattis attack President Trump a few weeks ago when he was talking about using troops to defend the country. You know, Mattis, in my view, is a stalking horse for many of the general leadership staff of the Pentagon. These generals are mostly Obama generals. So when you're talking about the deep state, the Pentagon has a deep state, because this is the sort of garbage it's perpetrating. This is they're forcing on our young men and women going in there. I mean, go to our website and read the full thing. You're going to be completely outraged. And I know many of you want your sons and daughters, and you'd be so proud if your grandsons and your granddaughters went into the military. Be warned, this is what they have to go through in order to do what they want to do, which is defend the country. I mean, the left, to the degree the left supports the military, they support it as a vehicle for social change. They don't believe in its core mission. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. You know, and those of, you know, the media and some of our friends on the right, you know, they try to figure out, and they're confused why, you know, this is just craziness. It's racist to be against racism. It's racism to just to be white. You hear this phrase, white privilege. And it may sound confusing unless you recognize that this is communism you're fighting. It's Maoist. It's the revolutionary left. And from the revolutionary left's perspective, and right now we are in a revolutionary period, they believe our systems are all oppressive. Everything that you would that is the basis for America, frankly, Western civilization, is part of racist, patriarchal, heteronormal, capitalist, religious, Oppression. The education system's oppression. Everything we do, our personal interactions reflect that oppression. So when you hear the phrase systemic racism, that's only part of what they believe. Everything is systemic about that. They think our entire system is fascist. So when you hear Antifa and they say, well, we're just anti-fascist, well, that's true from their perspective. But their definition of fascism is the American system. It's destroying capitalism. It's destroying everything. And so as a result, all the structures of society need to be torn apart. This is what we're facing. And we laugh about it because it's so absurd to us outsiders, right? But if you believe in the system, if you're part of the cult, the revolutionary cult, it's all internally consistent. It doesn't survive outside scrutiny, but they don't care about that. They think that logic and reason are part of the oppression. Are part of the oppression. So you may think it sounds stupid, and that's frankly for them evidence that you're part of the problem. I need to go through this type of training. This is deadly serious stuff. We can't reason with this. We can't appeal to the First Amendment. They laugh at that because they think that whole constitutional system, protections of rights and freedom of speech, that's designed to suppress their aggrieved interest groups. It's part of the oppression. They don't care about the First Amendment and the Constitution. We can't appeal to these values because they don't believe in them. So what does that mean? It means we have to stop them. It means when they're out there trying to destroy a courthouse, they have to be arrested. It means that when they want to destroy the police, it means they need to be stopped. The Judicial Watch has been highlighting this pernicious training, this way of life, this way of thinking in our government for years. This training's been going on in the military for years. We highlighted it back in 2015. There was similar training like this going on. When everyone says about when there's been criticism, well, it's not just about the Confederacy they're concerned about. It's about the founding. Well, that's been true for years. When you look at what these diversity people have been being paid by you to do, it's to attack the founders as well. They don't believe in America. They don't.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.